Hey, I'm Marina.
And I'm Emily.
And I've seen everything in the Sex and the City empire 10,000 times.
And I'm starting fresh.
So I'll be woman-splaining the show.
And I'm along for the ride.
But there's a twist. We are starting with And Just Like That and working our way back to the beginning.
So in other words, we're watching it backwards and in high heels.
This is City and the Sex. Wow. Welcome.
That was maybe the most disgusted with yourself you've looked. And that was a relatively normal one, but you just looked upset.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't think it was tasteful. Okay?
Okay.
But welcome to City of the Sex. We are at Sex and the City Season 6, Episode 17. We're in the final of the finale. We're inching in.
We're getting there. We're almost there.
We're almost there.
It's crazy. And I know how everything is supposed to basically land because we've seen the movies, but like we're still kind of far off. You know what I mean? We still have a ways to go. So I'm strapped in and I'm scared.
I'm scared. You should be.
Okay. Okay.
What was your one word for this episode?
My one word, honestly, for this was hair.
Oh.
And yeah, I just noticed it a lot in this episode. Carrie's brown hair, hairstyle choices. There was just like something about it. It was very noticeable this week.
Okay. We'll dive into it as we get there.
Mm-hmm.
My one word was only God will judge me. Because there's a lot of judgment in this episode. Both literal and metaphorical and all judgy McJudgerson types.
Judgy McJudgerson.
Mm-hmm. I said, is my mother guest starring in this episode? Let's get into it. This is Season 6, Episode 17, The Cold War.
Because he's Russian.
And also it's winter.
And also they're cold. That's what it was about, actually.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I will say, at the time of recording, it is winter New York. So I felt this episode like in my bone. Mm-hmm. I was able to empathize with Carrie on a whole new level.
We've somehow managed to line up pretty well. Like their fall episode was right around like peak fall in New York, and we were feeling it. And now we're in winter. So I'd like to pretend that this was on purpose and we were just method recording. But
yeah, you know me. I'm method when it comes to my recording.
We're a serious podcast.
What people don't know is I'm wearing a dumb hat every episode on the other side of this microphone. Well, we start in the episode, which is when it gets cold outside, New Yorkers step inside and look for ways to generate heat.
Sexy.
And then we cut to Petrovsky just fully fondling her titty underneath her shirt.
Gotta stay warm.
Listen, I love this man.
Straight for the titty.
And I love how Carrie's like, people are watching. And it's like, there's something about this episode in particular where I'm like, oh, Petrovsky like is one of those guys that has that view that's like your girlfriend, wife, partner is like only to fuck and nothing else.
That is it. That is such an interesting take, but also kind of makes sense. Because as we've discussed, and they're going to discuss a lot, it's like they don't have that much in common, but like they'll fuck. And we have had this discussion before of like, what is Petrovsky seeing in her? Like, what is the appeal? What is the allure of her to him? They fucking. By the way, hand on titty is happening while they're in a restaurant, to be clear. They are fully involved.
Not only at a restaurant, at the Star Table. Which, bring that concept back.
The Star Table.
The Star Table. I want to sit only at Star Tables.
Yeah.
That's the kind of obnoxious person I want to be.
You're just in page 6 and everyone's like, I don't know who this person is.
But I guess she'll get her titty fondled Lauren Boebert style.
Oh my God.
At this freaking Patisse. If anything,
Hey, it's not Beetlejuice, but
you can get Okay, I'm gonna set some rules right now.
okay.
You can get fondled at a restaurant because you're not disturbing anybody, except maybe the waitress, or waiter, but they don't have to really interact with you, and you're gonna tip them, hopefully. So you cannot get fondled at a theater show because you are pulling focus away from the performance, and you're not gonna tip those people.
I love this take. I was wondering where we were going with this, and it went right back to theater land. We are theater kids at heart. We were like, respect the space and the performers.
Respect the stage. Respect the black box. But, like, you could get fondled on a subway. That's fine. Subway is okay. Restaurant's okay. Movie theater, I would argue, is okay because
the live performers are not there.
Live performers are not there, and they're empty. Ooh, sorry about it. Hate to say it, Tom Cruise. So it's fine. A grocery store, I think, a little inappropriate because you're disturbing people and you don't tip them. A theatrical play, Lauren Boebert, I cannot say her name. Inappropriate. The ballet,
absolute disrespect.
Or the opera,
disrespect,
inappropriate. Those are the rules.
We don't make them. Those are just the rules.
They've been handed down. The 10th commandment.
Thank you for breaking that.
Is where can you get fondled publicly and it's okay.
Yeah. This is like us explaining rules to an alien that just landed and is asking us where they can get fondled, and we're just giving them whatever we just made up on the
Which
spot.
is Petrovsky, right?
Which circles back to Petrovsky.
Which this scene I love because it's like the alien has been studying the contemporary woman and then introduces the contemporary woman to the other aliens, and the other aliens like don't get it. That's this whole scene.
Yeah.
You view it through that lens, you're like, oh, yes. It makes sense.
Yes, exactly. You're spot on.
So his alien goon squad shows up, which consists of like this painter in a beret who makes like one great quip, which is that Petrovsky's like, he's the finest painter in New York. And he's like, I'm not paying for this lunch. Cool. Then we get the assistant who's not allowed to speak.
Yeah, who's just there to be there.
Hanging out with Petrovsky's friends, but not working? Question mark? Bizarre.
Don't know what's going on.
I'm going to blame it on Europe.
Yeah.
And then we have the Art Life magazine editor, who is the cuntiest woman, but also who I want to be.
Yeah, unfortunately, a villain, and we stand.
Unfortunately, a bully that I am obsessed with. Regina George style. But as we learn from this conversation, we learn that Petrovsky has a solo exhibit in Paris that Carrie did not know about. And cunty woman number one, as we mentioned, is like, well, you haven't shown art in 6 years. The world is waiting with breath that is baited.
It is so, it's like so shocking. Everything they say is like, going back to the alien thing, you're like, what?
Yeah.
What?
None of them are acting right. They're all like in a broken simulation.
So weird. Yeah.
The world is waiting with breath that is baited.
That is baited.
It's insane. And then we get the like stake through the heart here, which is that they're basically like, so what do you do, Carrie? Yeah. And she's like, oh, I'm a writer. And then she's like, novels? And she's like, no, I write a column in the New York Times. She's like, no, the New York Star. And then I love how Petrovsky just snatches a newspaper out of somebody's hand.
Yeah, just reaches across and takes it. And another person is like, that other person is reading the paper to try and distract themselves from the fondling that is happening at the table next to them. And now the sex fiend has taken his magazine. I want to know this guy's story. He's having a terrible morning.
He's like trying to look away, just like trying to enjoy his $3 restaurant French food. And then he's just getting his New York Star ripped out of his hands.
By aliens.
By a whole crew. And so he rips it out, and then he reads a piece of her column to the people at the table. which is, I think it starts with like, I believe the position 69 hasn't been popular since 1969, which like, I agree with Carrie. She's written better.
Yeah.
But just the way that the snarky little woman like giggles to herself as if to be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Biting.
It is such a, again, Emmy. The laugh is like, she may as well have said out loud, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
And she gives a look to the beret guy and the assistant, and like in an instant they just all exchange looks to say like, this girl is not serious.
It's so sad because like Petrovsky had a brief moment where I was like, that's sort of honorable to try and like talk up your girlfriend's credentials, but like he's only embarrassing her. Like everything he does to try and talk her up is just embarrassing her further, and he's just completely misread the situation. And
even at the end when he reads it so proud, and then he turns to Carrie and he kind of like hugs her even tighter to be like, it's good, see, like it's good. And you're like, oh my God, my guy. Also, how many times have I been here? I think there are many ways to aggrieve an artist. I would say maybe too many ways. Okay, I'll admit that. One of the top ways is when you pimp out somebody else's work to people that they do not want to converse with about their work.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, the number of relationships I've been in where they're like, well, Marina's writing a solo show. And it's like, the last person I want to talk to about anything I'm working on is this group of people right here. But you've pimped me out to them now that I have to talk about it. And I'm suffering. I'm suffering for my art right now. Right now. Talking about my own art.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, the alien coven, they don't approve of Carrie.
They're like, we're not abducting this bitch.
Yeah, we're not probing her. We're leaving her behind.
Yeah.
So then
it is, and I don't want to gang up on Petrovsky because I do think he meant it well, but in the context of everything, it feels condescending even though he isn't being condescending. Like, I know he's actually trying to talk her up, but it feels very like, look at my cute little writer pet. Isn't she so funny? Ha 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 ha. Anyway, let's talk about art.
Yeah. Well, I think to my earlier point about being one of those guys that like views your romantic relationship as just the fucking part.
Yeah.
Where he's kind of like in one way, it's like, oh, he doesn't care where Carrie does. But to your point, it is sort of in this like, doesn't my sex partner do this cool job? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I don't know. It does have a kind of a weird separation to it. Because I think he is being genuine. Mm-hmm. You know, genuinely being like, oh, she writes a cute column. But like, nobody wants anything called cute.
Yeah, exactly. An adult woman doesn't want to be called that.
Past the age of 14, cute in any regard towards a female.
It's off the book.
Off the book. Or honestly, any gender.
Yeah.
Off the books. Exactly. Stop it. Speaking of cute, we cut to Charlotte walking Elizabeth Taylor with Anthony. And everybody's stopping to be like, oh my God, your dog is so cute. And Anthony's clearly envious. He's like, your dog is cruising better than me, and we're at the corner of gay and gay. I think they're near Stonewall Inn. I like rewound it a couple times, but I think they're near like the Stonewall Inn area. That's why that joke allegedly makes sense.
Okay.
And he calls the dog a freaking attention whore.
Okay.
Which then propels Charlotte to decide to re-enter the dog in competitions. Because her love for the dog will have her win despite the very clear defects that her breeder pointed out? Question mark?
Yeah, this was odd. On the one hand, it's like Charlotte being a person who enters a dog show competition makes complete sense. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is entirely... You would be the person to enter along with, like, 60-year-old woman. But isn't the reason we adopted this dog because she can't compete?
I guess, question mark?
We're going to have a lot of uncomfortable silences when it comes to discussing this dog for the rest of the episode. So I'm just going to let this continue and we'll get to it later.
I just like, this feels a lot to me like the whole blind subplot where like they don't really know what to do with her, but they don't want the infertility thing to be a downer. So they invent crazy plots like this where it's like kind of fun, but also like, how did we get here?
Yeah.
So Miranda comes home to her Brooklyn ruins.
I know. I had a note that was like, oh, I forgot that she's sleeping in a shack.
And she's complaining because she's like, I had to walk from the subway in my heels. And of course, like, Steve's like, well, why don't you change into sneakers like everybody else? And she's like, you can take the girl out of Manhattan, but you can't take her out of her shoes. And I'm like, I'm with Steve on this one where it's like, okay, well, if it's a problem, you need to figure it out.
Yeah, you know what, Miranda? If it's a problem, maybe you should figure it out. Also, that's so odd. That's like, that's such a Carrie line. Like, that doesn't, maybe I'm totally misreading Miranda, but the heels thing feels like not it. Everyone has taken some strange pills today, and they're doing something strange.
Yeah, this whole episode, everybody's just malfunctioning.
Yeah.
Of course, though, then she's like, did you, and he's like, I spent all day building all these walls. And she's like, did you install the DSL? And then she's like, I need the internet. A thing I say all the time.
Yes. Yes.
Relatable.
Correct.
But Steve does have good news, which is that they're finally getting their mail. And so she has the latest edition of Tattletale, which is, of course, kind of a Us Weekly People magazine stand-in.
As far as we just made fun of people being out of character, and I will say I actually am enjoying this other side to Miranda of like her liking trashy things. I think that's kind of funny. Like that's a funny through line of her liking the soap opera, and she's obsessed with DVR and all these sort of things. It's like that's kind of perfect.
Yeah. And any lawyer I know is like that.
Yeah.
Like they love The Bachelor or Real Housewives, you know?
Yeah.
That's one of the things that irritated me about And Just Like That is they thought the one-to-one of her loving tabloids and that kind of stuff in 2021 or whenever that was filmed was liking podcasts, which is like why she's always like, did you hear this podcast on And Just Like That? And it's like, they're not quite a one-to-one in the same way. Like she should like Real Housewives. That's like the one-to-one there.
100%. She's like really into that era. And maybe there's an episode where she gets like, she downloads TikTok and goes down like a rabbit hole or something.
Exactly.
You know?
Like that I would think would be the updated version, not podcasts.
You know, you and I should write a sequel series called And Just Like That.
And Just Like That 2.0, where we redo it from the beginning. We'll keep Big dying because that we all agree
is funny.
And we don't want to put him back in the show. But
exactly.
Other than that, respectfully,
we'll recreate his scenes in the pilot from already filmed footage.
We'll do like those trailers that people do where they're like, Emilia Clarke is in the live action Frozen. And for 2 seconds, you're like, what, really? And then it's like a fan edit.
Yeah.
Where they've taken like some other snow movie and just slapped Emilia Clarke's face on top. And you're like, oh, I am an idiot.
Yeah, you got me. You got me again.
Got me. That's how we'll become famous. Okay. Yeah, I do love her 2 lines here, which is that, you know, Steve's like, I can't believe you read that. And she's like, I love it. It's my thing. Let it go.
Yeah.
Which is like my new
perfect. No explanation. It's my thing. Stop it.
And then he like keeps pushing. And then she's like, I'm reading this. You no longer exist. Been there.
We get it.
Been there. Listen, my boyfriend recently became re-addicted to Zoom beanies. Did you ever play that?
I loved Zoom beanies. Okay. Oh my God.
This is a Zoom beanie stan podcast. Okay.
Make me a pizza.
More toppings.
Yeah.
And that's how I relate to this. You know what I mean? It's like when he gives me the laptop with the Zoom beanies, I'm like, you no longer exist.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with the Zoom beanies.
I have to get them home. These are my children, and my existence is to get them home. Nothing else matters. Goodbye.
So very relatable here. So then we cut back to Pastis, which apparently is the only restaurant New Yorkers eat in when it's cold, ?
Yeah, what's going on? Is it just that they had like filming rights for this one place and they loved it so much that they're like, we're just gonna use this for every eating scene in this restaurant?
I don't know. Maybe it must have been like a big thing back in the day, ? I don't know.
I don't know.
It's kind of crazy, and that there's always somebody at the star table. I always think about your question that you had way in the beginning of this podcast, which is like, how famous are these people? And it's like, I still can't answer the question. It's like, well, Samantha's pretty famous because she's like dating, the Brad Pitt or whatever of this time.
Yeah.
But like, how is Carrie at the star table? Because of Petrovsky? Like, I don't know. The last famous artist is like Andy Warhol that would be at a star table like that. So I'm like, is he Andy Warhol levels of fame? I don't know.
Yeah, what is we just operate on a totally different level of who gets famous or not. Like in this universe, the strangest people become famous.
Yeah. But anyway, we're back at the same restaurant, and Stanford is with Marcus, and he sees Smith eating at a table, and he's like, oh, let's go over and say hi. But Stanny gets pretty beat down in these next 2 episodes, I have to say. So we'll cut him some slack, and we won't absolutely destroy him because all his lines are pretty rough. So he heads over there and goes to Smith being like, oh, we're friends with Samantha. And Smith is like with a mystery woman. And then of course it turns around and she's like, I hear she's a wonderful woman. And it's Samantha in like a dark colored wig. Here's my hot take.
Okay.
This is the only good wig.
I think that's a lukewarm room temperature take.
I think every other wig after this is bad.
Is it? Yeah.
Like, it's not even like outrageous. No, it's like, it's unflattering. This is the only flattering wig that she wears.
Yeah.
All the other wigs are just
unacceptable.
They're all like with this like French coquette can curl bang that like done nobody.
Having wigs with bangs is crazy, and then having wigs with like strange colors that also aren't like fun. Like, it's just so bizarre selection. Also for Samantha, you know what I mean? It's like if Carrie were choosing a wig that she'd be wearing, I can see Carrie doing some silly goofy things. Samantha, I can't follow your decision making.
She needs a longer bang, for the love of God.
Somebody help her.
Somebody help her. But anyway, it's Samantha, and Stanny makes the quip, oh, I guess you're getting wiggy with it. Oh, God. And then they join them, and then this poor man's Ashton Kutcher comes up and is like, oh, Smith, my girlfriend loves you. And he's like, oh. And then he's like, can I get a picture? And they're like, yeah. And then they all take a picture, and he's like, cool. And then I think the implication is that this guy like sold this picture to the magazines, but like, couldn't it have just been a paparazzi pic?
That's true. That's a good point. Because Smith Jarrett is famous, so it's not weird. It is a weird choice. Whatever.
Weird choice. But then we cut to Carrie and Petrovsky in bed, and she brings up the show, being like, so what are you working on? You know, I want to hear about it. And he's like, well, I just don't really want to talk about work. Like, you know, and she's like, well, when I'm with your friends, like, I want to be able to like engage. And he's like, I don't know, all that art talk is so fucking boring. And then
this is kind of an interesting moment too, because he like corrects her and says that they aren't his friends. And this is a question I want to ask because it's going to come up again in the future, but it's like, I'm a little puzzled, who are his friends? You know what I mean?
I think, well, because he does say that his friends are in Europe. So, not spoiler, when they go to Paris, I think we do meet some of his friends.
Okay.
They are aliens like these people.
Okay. Interesting.
So, to your point, what is the distinction? But to his point, I guess there is a distinction.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is arbitrary. Okay. So then Carrie's like, well, I guess I'll go. Like, I have to go to my life. And he's like, oh, you're so New York with the schedule, always trying to go somewhere. Why don't you just stay here and do nothing? And Carrie's like, okay. So then we see the three girls, Charlotte, Miranda, and Samantha at brunch. And all I wrote was, hate the Samantha wig. Because this is where the cropped bang starts. And Miranda brings up the whole tattletale thing. So she's basically like, I was reading through my magazine, and Charlotte's like, you read those? And she's like, I love it. It's my thing. Let it go. And she's like, and I came across this article. And the article has the picture of Smith with Stanford and Marcus being basically like implying that Smith is gay. With one of the darkest reads of all time, which is that they identify Stanny as unidentified older gay gentleman. Scathing. I cannot think of a worse insult.
You weren't kidding. He's really going through it.
He's really like, they just absolutely just like, yeah, under the bus in these 2 episodes. Like, it's just so, I feel so bad. And then Carrie calls to cancel, saying that it's too cold to make it there. Miranda, I would say rightfully so, is like, I came from Brooklyn.
Yeah. It's such a... I thought she was going to, like, make up an excuse or something. No, she's just like, I'm cold. And Miranda's like, I literally came all the way. Are you serious? You live probably, like, 2 blocks away?
Yeah. I also love the acting moment here because she calls Charlotte. So Charlotte's the one talking on the phone, and then Miranda's like trying to snatch the phone continuously to basically yell at Carrie.
Yeah.
But then Samantha snatches the phone from Miranda and is like, you stay downtown with your hot man, as we see Petrovsky giving Carrie a foot massage. And then the 3 girls like solemnly look to Carrie's empty chair.
Very dramatic reaction to this.
And then we learn that Carrie stayed in his apartment for 4 days straight.
I mean, I'm happy for her. I'm sad for the girls that they don't seem to have. I mean, because as we discussed, they're figments of her imagination. They don't really have much going on, I guess, when she's not there. Like, we don't see them interact with each other individually. When she's not there, we haven't that much.
Wow, that's... I mean... Part of it is that Carrie is the main character, right? So,
right.
But to your point, it is kind of weird to see the 3 of them interact without her, and they don't even really interact without her because the whole time is them telling their exploits to Carrie on the phone.
Right, exactly.
Sad. Okay.
Sad. Okay. Anyway.
Carrie leaves, goes to her apartment to write her long overdue column. She has this quip that's like, I came home to the tropics, which I think is like a bit about how like steam apartments are hot. Do you know what I mean? Old apartments that have like the steam pipe or like, you're like sweating in them.
Really hot. Yeah.
I will say there's a lot of insider New Yorker stuff going on in this episode. Like when Anthony was like, I'm at the corner of gay and gay, I was like, I think he's at Stonewall, but they don't show you Stonewall. Do you know what I mean? And like, if you were just like watching this in Minnesota, like you would have no idea what he's talking about. But then we get an appearance from your favorite man, Mr. Big.
America's favorite emotional terrorist is here.
Leaving the goofiest voicemails. First of all, it's like, so he called once and she didn't answer, and then I guess she didn't call back for 4 days, so he left 2 more voicemails. But it's like, she could have been on vacation.
Yeah, it's like, are you dying? Yeah. And he continues to get more and more pathetic with every time I see him.
So the first voicemail, he says, we just put our new Cabernet to bed. Made me think of you. I do not know what that means. Does that mean he made like a batch of Cabernet and then like put it in the barrel and somehow the barrels made him go, oh, Carrie? Or he like drank
or they
bottle?
finished the wine?
Yeah,
like he just but that in itself is like not a monumental enough to like I finished a bottle of wine made me think of you.
It just goes to show that moving to California is never a good idea. I'm just kidding. But like, this man is desperate.
This man has nothing. He's popping out like Little Mermaid from a jacuzzi in Napa, and yet he's leaving voicemails being like, I drank wine today. I thought of you.
Then he goes on and he's like, I called your cell, but I think I copied down the wrong number. Unless you're a ticked off guy named Paco. I hope you didn't try to phone sex Paco, because it's probably what he tried to do.
You know he did. Paco is pissed.
Paco was like, can I help you?
Yeah, he picked up and he was like, hey, baby.
And then I love the final voicemail is, did I do something to tick you off? If I did, call me and I'll apologize.
Jesus Christ.
And you can tell he has like he's like self-aware when he says that, you know what I mean? He's like, just call me and I'll apologize for whatever it is. But it's like, dude, she could be on vacation and you don't have her
need
cell
to
phone.
relax.
So it's not like you called her cell phone. Like if you called somebody's cell phone 3 times and they didn't answer, that's like, do you hate me? Or are you dead?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Right. Are you okay?
Here's my thing. So she hits delete 3 times. Delete. And she deletes Mr. Big, which tells me she like didn't tell him about Petrovsky, I think. Like I think she's trying to cut him out to like move on. Because in the next scene with Miranda, when she visits her in Brooklyn, she's like, I realized last time I saw him, which was the heart attack episode or like the heart surgery episode. I realized like, what's the point? You know? And also like things are getting serious with the Russians. So I think she like, I don't think she's talked to him very much.
Okay. That's a good point.
Which explains the mania.
The spiral,
if you will.
And you know that the spiral is now intensified because she did not respond to his begging message for attention. So he is out there like in a barrel of wine head first.
In a barrel of Cabernet,
trying to drown
like,
himself.
Carrie! Like Streetcar Named Desire. Carrie!
Yeah.
And then some guy named Paco is like, are you okay?
Yeah, Paco is like,
stop calling this number.
Man, you want to talk?
So Carrie pays back Miranda and visits her in Brooklyn. And as I said, you know, it's like, I'm moving on, you know, things are serious with the Russian. And Carrie obviously is like saying like, he's amazing. He's this, he's that. And then she's like, there's just one thing. And Miranda's like, thank God. I was getting worried about me and Steve. And and Carrie lays the truth of we don't have anything in common but each other. And she also really reveals the truth on herself, saying, I had this whole idea that a couple shares everything. And then Steve arrives with a dessert, and then he's like, I love having your friends over. And then scurries away.
Steve voice. I love your Steve voice so much. It's so lovely.
It keeps me going in dark times. So that's just that whole scene is just foreshadowing.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see
the terror foreshadowing.
Yeah. I see the cracks.
It just gets me because
it's good writing. It's good setup that I think is going to turn into payoff.
That will pay off. And it does get me sometimes that Carrie is self-aware, but then just never like completes the thought.
Yeah, exactly.
So then Carrie's back at Petrovsky's house, and it's like early in the morning, and he comes out of his studio, and she's like, "How's it going?" And he's like dead quiet.
Yeah.
And Carrie's kind of like, "Well, since I met some of your friends, I really like you to meet my friends." And he's like, "Sure, I'd love to meet your friend." Carrie's like, "I need to go and write my column." Because and he's like, "Well, why don't you do it here?" And she's like, "Well, I need my laptop." And he's like, "Well, you can use my computer." And then I love how we cut to her in this like early 2000s computer lab that has a
Yeah.
motorcycle in it.
It's the man room.
It's the man room. Computers and motorcycles. That's how a man is a man.
Yeah. It's like concrete, gray furniture.
You get to straddle a bike while you download Python.
Yeah. And you go on Discord.
And you go and you do the Excel.
She opens the door and he's just like buying. I think this entire time she thinks he's working on his art piece, but actually he's just like mining Bitcoin and gaming with the boys. He's like just.
I just need to put this question out there, which is like, what is it about men in their 60s who like just buy a motorcycle and then display it in the middle of their home? Like, he's not the only man I've seen this from. I've seen this in my real life. Like, what is that impulse? You know what I mean? Like, something's happening.
The crisis is happening. The crisis is happening. Like the midlife crisis you've heard about, it's happening.
Dead giveaway.
But it's at a more advanced stage because he hasn't just bought the motorcycle. It's in the living room.
It's in the living room. Yeah, exactly. It's stage 2. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like developed.
It's code blue.
You need to see a doctor. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, it's not in the stage where you can kind of just write it off. It's in the stage where like you have.
You can't just like WebMD it now. You got to call the hospital.
No. Yeah. I don't know. It's like a chip in the brain.
Where that just goes off. It's like if you had a vintage car, for example, and you had that in the garage and that was your thing. You know, you like your hobby was to take care of the vintage car. That I understand. Like this is not that though. But it is the energy of like I'm going to get a vehicle, but I'm not going to get it to like tinker with it. I'm going to get it cuz I think it makes me cool. And I'm not even going to keep it in the place where it's supposed to be. I'm going to put it in my living room.
Yeah.
So everyone must look at it.
It's like, to your point, the garage full of cool vintage cars is hot and cool. Because I get the feeling we're going to get in one of them and you're going to give me a joyride, both in this car and on your penis. Do you know what I mean? Whereas the motorcycle in the living room, I'm stuck on the logistics. I'm like, if you were going to take me out, are you starting this in your house? Or are you wheeling it out to the driveway and then starting it? Because both of them are clumsy.
Are clumsy and awkward. You're clearing the floor to make room. It's leaving tire tracks on the floor. It's a logistic nightmare. I love your example of the here's what I expect from this and here's what I expect from this. I'm going to go one further. It's like if you told me, Petrovsky, I'm friends with Oscar de la Renta. Cool flex. That's awesome. I'm going to take you to his like release party, whatever, going to wear. That's awesome. Cool connection. You're an interesting person. If you're like, here is my wax statue of Oscar de la Renta in my living room that I keep at all times, I'm calling someone for help.
Yeah.
Because something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
And I'm concerned for you.
And on the heels of Burger and the motorcycle, I'm just like,
oh, good connection.
I think we all used to think motorcycles in the hands of men were cool. But I think we can now diagnose as a medical podcast that motorcycles in the hands of men are a cry for help.
Yes.
And call your hotline.
Call your hotline.
Check your resources. Better help. Well, Carrie does manage to call him despite the eyesore of the motorcycle. And she starts by saying, they say opposites attract, but for how long? And then she ends on the thought, I couldn't help but wonder, without sharing your worlds, can even the hottest relationship stop cold? And then the word cold appears big on the screen. And she's like, fuck, how do I get out of this? Get it?
Yeah,
The
'cause
Cold
she's like
War.
driving a spaceship and not a computer.
Yeah, exactly. So then we cut to Samantha getting a pedicure in, surprise, surprise, another bad wig. And Carrie makes a quip here that's like, she was at the place where like you can always hear the hottest gossip from like two young PR girls. And so there's these like two women getting manicures next to her. And they're like, oh, did you hear like Smith is gay? Which we didn't clarify, but in the earlier scene, Samantha defends it, being like, oh, when the gay rumor starts, like that's when you're really famous. But in this scene, the two girls are like, oh, I heard he's gay. And then one of them's like, wasn't he fucking Samantha Jones by full name? And then the other one's like, yeah, you know, I used to think she had the hottest sex life of anybody in New York City, but I guess she's just a, and then they use a term, an outdated term, to describe a particular kind of hag that hangs out with gay people. I guess that's what she is now. Okay.
Sad. Sad.
Problematic jar.
Yeah.
So then we cut to the most fever dream part of this whole episode, which is Charlotte
Here we go.
competing at the dog show. So first we start with this amazing quip from Samantha where she's like, in an instant, I went from Demi to Liza.
Oh, man.
Incredible. Poor Stanny's like, at least you were recognized. I was outed. Then we get another, again, just Stanford getting punched in the face. Carrie's like, I'd like you all to come meet Petrovsky. And everyone's like, yes, ooh, ah. And then Stanny's like, oh, I'm so excited. And she's like, oh, not you. It's a girls' night only.
Strike again.
Strike it. Slap him in the backhand him in the face. KO.
We need to add to our rotation of sound effects the Super Smash Brothers melee when you get like blown off the side of the thing and you're just here, whoa! And he's like, we need to add that to the rotation for all these smackdowns that are happening.
So then we go backstage where obviously Anthony's helping Charlotte. I love that. I like forgot that happens. And then when we cut to the two of them and he's like blow drying her, I'm like, this is perfect.
That's nice.
And of course he makes the quip, this is not the kind of blowjob I was hoping for.
Of course.
And he's like, surrounded by all these dogs, I thought there'd be at least one horny circuit muscle gay here, but no, it's just boxy women.
All right.
Hits
Anthony.
keep coming and they don't stop coming. And then blood exits from the dog, and we realize that the dog is on her period.
All right.
This show is
this
about
is gonna
women.
Be...
Women dogs. Women. Alien women. All the women.
Women in their periods.
Periods in a dog.
Bitches in their periods.
The number of bitches in their periods jokes that they make, offensive.
We've circled back around to being offensive. I mean, the plot has to happen. That's gonna happen. But I was like, I was just surprised that dog wasn't neutered by the previous owner. Even
I think dogs.
It's like, is that not? No. Is that less normal?
I don't think you neuter spay dogs that are in competition.
Oh.
I don't think they neuter spay those dogs because I know this from cats. So do with that information what you will. But
the musical.
Because Jellicle Ball.
Mm-hmm.
I went there and I learned that. Because my mom, I don't know if you know this, all my cats are discounted champion cats.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So all my cats, so my childhood cat, my parents' current cat, my childhood cat was the International Supreme Grand Champion of 1999. And then he had too much.
How have you not shared that with me? How was that not the first thing that you shared with me when we first met?
Hi, my name is Marina, and my childhood cat was an International Supreme Grand Champion. Of Maine Coons, too, which is, people know, are like the big cat. Anyway.
Competitive category.
And then he suffered from anxiety and depression, and he threw up so much that he gave himself gingivitis, so they had to pull out all his teeth so he couldn't compete anymore. Because your teeth are like a part of the measurement that they use for perfection.
Fame hurts us all.
Yeah, honestly, it only does damage. And that's how he ended up in our life. Because we adopted, I guess, we paid for him. So is it an adoption or a rescue? I don't know. But my mom got him on 50% off. So anyway, so you don't want to neuter or spay too early because it can affect in Maine Coon cats, like how big their head grows. Like they have a smaller head if you spay early, which is obviously fine if you're just rescuing an animal as a pet. But if you're trying to show, you need the head to be the correct proportion because that's what they're measuring on. So I don't think that they spay or neuter dogs. Also because you might want to breed them after they win, which is what they also did to my cat Doozer. And that gave him more anxiety and depression. So he actually only made one successful litter and refused to mount any of the females. Rest in peace, man. Rest in peace.
This cat is a legend. It's such a sad
legend
story
toothless,
of this.
A toothless, asexual cat, man. Rest in peace. He was my best friend. That cat was my best friend. That cat, the number of times I would cry on him about being bullied in middle school, and he would take his slobbering gums,
toothless
and
gums,
wipe them on my forearm. I love that guy, and I miss him every day.
I love him.
How did we get here?
Him.
Dog period, right? That's
right.
why I think she has a dog period because I don't think they spay, neuter, show dogs in their prime. Carrie comes, of course, right at this moment. I love how Charlotte and Anthony both pop up with like very concerned faces. And Carrie's like, what's going on? And then Charlotte explains. And then Charlotte's like, well, we have to figure out something to do. And Anthony's like, what are you going to do? Find a teeny tiny tampon? Which like is funny.
Yep.
He and Carrie laugh. Charlotte is basically like, it's not funny. Except that it is. Carrie goes back to the group and is like, the dog has its period, which everybody laughs at. Then Charlotte comes out to like do the competition, and Miranda gets super into it for some reason that's never explained. And then Charlotte does her like walk or whatever, and she like is showing off the dog, and like a couple drops of blood drop onto her boot, and you can see that the judge also registers the blood, which I'm like, the blood could come from anything, and also it was like too small to even be noticed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But long story short, the judge is in love with Charlotte, so she wins.
Yeah, it is not where you thought this was going.
And then the plot is over and he's dead.
And then it's over. It's like he sees the blood and then looks at her and they kind of smile at each other. And then he goes, this is the winner. And then she has like a slow motion victory lap. And Carrie's like, the winner of the whole competition in the judge's eyes was Charlotte or something like that. And then it ends. So I think he just had a crush on her. I don't know. There was a lot going on really fast, but it's over and Elizabeth Taylor won. Okay.
And of course, Anthony finds his gay guy. Great. Like, it's just such a weird, like, so much drama and everything's fine.
I know. That's so true. This whole sequence we just described is maybe 4 minutes long.
Yeah. It's like... And then this is where we get our seatbelt back on, because this guy who they've decided is gay coded comes up to Samantha, and Samantha's like, oh my God, Tom, it's so good to see you. Why are you like here? And he's like, oh, I do PR for this like dog show or whatever. And Samantha's like, okay. And then he's like, can I get Smith's number? And Samantha's like, oh, he's fucking me. And then he's like, yeah, sure. And then safety bars down. The episode ramps up on a high where we cut to Samantha and Smith making a sex tape.
Yeah.
As the solution to this problem.
0 to 60 escalation of the problem we were having, and like crazy solution. Like, I'm not even saying that that's necessarily out of character for Samantha to decide that this is how she solves her problems, but it goes by so fast, and the voiceover is very sort of like, and so naturally,
Yeah.
Samantha had to take things into her own hand. And it's like, whoa, that is like not, that's
Which
like
is
not
to
at all.
release a sex tape of herself. And
Yeah.
like, couldn't that end up bad?
Bad? Yeah, it's like, this is the 90s. This isn't necessarily gonna look good for him. And also, you're like a PR executive who's like dating your client, kind of. So already it's sort of like, maybe there's controversy there, but now you're releasing this is like, there is so many bad things that could happen from here that I just can't believe this was presented as the most normal way to solve the problem.
Well, first and foremost, I'm like scooping into the Coinstar machine at the supermarket and dumping the whole rainfall of coins in the problematic jar. And then I'm also being like, man, pre-Me Too, a wild time. Understatement of the year, but like a wild time.
Yeah. And she's like, well, it worked for Paris Hilton.
Yeah.
What?
I mean,
what? That is a completely different case.
Big old shrug.
I don't know.
I don't know what to say other than that this is another plot where you're like, I'd expect more ramifications from this. But no, it just like wraps up with a bow with a voiceover.
Like, I guess that's done because she released a sex tape.
Yeah, like Carrie says something like, those two BR girls got like a XXX gift from FedEx. Great. And they don't leak it, except they do leak it and nobody cares. Can you imagine if like Timothée Chalamet released a sex tape of him fucking his PR executive and they had been dating? Do you know what I mean? Like, that's essentially the equivalent. Yeah. It's like the heartthrob that everybody's in. Like, that would be insane.
Yeah. Yeah. But it just is a blink. Like, it's never referenced again.
So the roller coaster's still ramping up. We're still not free. Charlotte is at the dog park with Harry. And she's like holding the dog or whatever. And Harry's like, let her run around. And Charlotte's like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, okay. And she is immediately humped. And then in the words of Samantha, she's gangbanged by all the other dogs at the park who all take turns. The way that Charlotte doesn't step in and is like, Harry, do something. And Harry like walks over and kind of just like shrugs and like pushes away a couple dogs. I'm like, I need some more involvement, some urgency. Yeah. This is crazy.
I don't know what to say about this. I think this is what I was just like shouting at the screen at this. I was like, wow, what is happening? What is happening? It's just because this is also right after all of these other crazy scenes we've seen. It's like, it is, and the sound effects, like, it's a lot of dogs are attacking Elizabeth Taylor. Like, it's just like the entire park is ganging up on this dog, and they're like, oh no, she's getting gangbanged. It's like the craziest thing.
I'm like, I don't know. It's like assault? I'm like witnessing animal abuse. Like, I don't like it.
Are we laughing? It's supposed to be for laughs, but I'm sad.
I'm laughing.
This was such a good day for Elizabeth Taylor, and now it's such a bad day for Elizabeth Taylor.
Like, I'm laughing because I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the screen being like, when is this going to be over?
Thankfully, I think this might be the height of the roller coaster.
Yeah.
And now we're just going
down. So, as I said, all the girls get together to meet Petrovsky at this like dinner. Samantha, before the other wigs were just bad looking, not very shapely. This is a full-on afro with Foxy Brown puns attached and a hair pick attached. Can I get a second problematic jar, please? My first one is full.
The first one has shattered.
I think this is a continuation of like, isn't she wacky with all these wig personalities? Wouldn't it be fun to put her in an afro? Times have hopefully changed slightly, but who knows?
all we can do is laugh because it's like they're it's so shocking that all you can do is just be like, man, the 2000s, man. It's like there's nothing else to say. I mean, and it's also when the minute you see it, you go, holy, and then you just think, okay, we just need to get through the end of the scene and we'll be fine. But as Marina said, they need to quip about it. They need to make jokes.
They have to make a big deal about it.
And she calls herself a sister.
God. Some people.
Marina just has her head in her hands,
crying.
It's bad, and it's not. It's also not her natural color. To be clear, like it's black.
Yeah. Egregious.
She just thought it was funny. I mean, she thought it was funny.
I'd like to say two things. One, you unfortunately were spoiled of this moment because somebody texted you out of context a picture of her in an afro like a couple weeks ago, which thankfully, like, we were coming up on this episode, so it wasn't like a major spoiler. But you texted me being like, I think all you wrote was, "What is this?" And I was like, I am not going to explain. I'll just let us get to the episode. And luckily, soon enough, you will know. And then my second thing is, many people, as we know in this country, yearn for a better time. The good old days, one said. And when they say that, they mean the 50s or something. My good old days are 2004, because as evidenced by this episode, you could get away with fucking anything.
A lawless, shameless land.
You could release a sex tape with the biggest star and then turn around and put an afro wig on your head as a white person and then go to a public restaurant and then comb it with a hair pick. Again, as a white person. And I want to be really clear. I don't want to do any of these things. I'm just saying, when people refer to the good old days, it's absolutely this.
Yeah. When nothing mattered. When you could just do anything.
When you could just do anything, and dogs have periods, and it is what it is. You know what I mean?
You're at the VIP table.
At the star table at Pastis. Living life.
It is one of those things where you see someone behave in this way and you're like, oh, I didn't know you could just do that. I guess. And just get away with it. Oh, okay.
I can now. So the girls are hanging out. Carrie's wearing kitchen gloves. That's where we are. Yeah. Petrovsky calls. He cancels because he's held up working. He's so nice. He even orders a bottle of champagne paid by him to say sorry, which, like, put a pin in this, because we'll see other boyfriends who stand up Carrie's friends, and they are not as nice as this. So, like,
let me guess. Do their names rhyme with Mr. Schmeg?
I can confirm nor deny. You know, like, he stands them up.
Do their names rhyme with Sister Pig?
Sister Pig. I can confirm nor deny. But maybe. But he's apologetic about it.
Yeah.
And Carrie's response is, let's just go disturb him.
It is so funny that is her immediate reaction. It isn't to, like, bask in the moment and go like, oh, that's sweet, and then carry on with the night. Her immediate reaction was, I think we should go interrupt him, because he's clearly gonna love that. He loves spontaneity like that. It's like, if he did not come to the Meet the Friends dinner, it's because he's busy. So my logical next step is, he must love it if I go to him.
Here's my thing. Yeah. This is revenge for when he pimped her out with the column. Because the second thing that artists hate after that is being disturbed when they're in the zone.
Yeah. You know what? Fair. All right. I'm totally on board with this now.
Revenge. That's the only way I can read into this.
Artist revenge.
Or she's just that crazy, which we know is the real answer. Okay. So they show up drunk as hell, giggling. And Carrie's in full braggadocious mode, being like, he owns the whole floor. Kill me. And
it has the vibe, the giggly drunk vibe, but it feels like a child bringing their like middle school friends to their house to be like, this is the big TV.
We have a PlayStation. We have a
GameCube. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like that kind of vibe, and they're like, ooh,
exactly. And then we get the sisters got to get ready with the hair pick, burn it to ash. And Carrie knocks on the studio door several times. Petrovsky opens the door. He's clearly flustered. Yeah. She's like, I'm here with all my friends. I'm spontaneous. And he is like, I'm really very busy. I'm so sorry, but please enjoy the apartment. Like, again, he's not like, get the fuck out, I'm working. He doesn't beast mode where he's like, you're in the West Wing, get out. Like, you know, he's completely reasonable being like, hey, listen, I am still working. I'm still busy.
I'm sorry, that's just such a good...
It's my favorite scene in that movie. When he goes, get out! And he goes, get out! And she like runs. Exhilarating. Okay. He could have done that.
Now that is a man.
That's my sex tape. Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm watching.
Marina DeMarzo releases bombshell sex tape and you just getting yelled at by a man.
No.
And running away.
No. I'm the beast in that
situation. Okay.
Don't play.
Your boyfriend's running away.
Yeah, my boyfriend's running away because I'm the beast. We know this to be true.
That's true. That is so true.
And then, get out! Get out!
I'm writing jokes for my one-woman show!
Get out! The West Wing is forbidden! Yeah.
Sex tape. Okay.
Yeah, that's it just happened. We'll release this tape. Okay.
Yeah.
So he could have done that. Okay.
Yeah.
He doesn't do that. He does a very reasonable, like, hey, I really can't. I'm sorry. But somehow they all get the ick. Like Carrie's like, well, let's just all hang out in the house. And everyone's like, no, haha. Miranda's like, I have to go to Brooklyn. The best out of all time. And they just kind of like leave.
Yeah, they're all like really turned off about this. I mean, whatever. They're drunk. I'm trying to excuse like why they're just so put off by this, and I'm like, this is a completely normal response to what you guys were doing.
Yeah.
But maybe it's just that they're drunk. It is just kind of sad to have him very kindly offer the apartment and then all be like, oh, I have to go.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was so sad. And then Miranda goes home to Steve and is like,
oh no,
kissing him like, I love that you love my friends, and like, I love that you bring us like cake or whatever. And he's like, well, you're gonna love me more because I installed the DSL line. And she's like, oh, I do love you. And then they start making out, and then we get a zoom up on a book that's Plumbing 123, which I think is like a and then they had sex transition. Terrible. The man was
Steve.
Working. Do you know what I mean? Like, if Steve was in the middle of drilling a hole in the wall, he'd be like, hey, Carrie, and then he'd go back to drilling a hole in the wall.
Drilling a hole in the wall. It's such, and it's like, it's not like, oh, we're bothering him to do that. He was busy enough to not come to the dinner.
He said he was busy, and he gave you guys a free bottle of champagne. Like, this man has done nothing wrong.
I feel like this is going down in the books as like a bad introduction to the friends. Yeah. And I feel like that's just sad for him. I'm sad for him. He didn't deserve this.
He didn't deserve this. Well, Miranda doesn't deserve what's going to happen next, which is that because of her DSL line, while Steve is passed out buck-ass naked in the bed behind her, she goes to tattletale.com and sees the Samantha sex tape. Which then they never talk about ever again.
Ever again.
Let me be clear. If I went to page 6... and your full-ass sex tape was posted, first of all, I wouldn't watch for as long as she does.
Thank you.
Second of all, like, beep-bop-boop phone call.
I was just going to say, I was like, you're calling me, right? You're telling me.
They don't talk to each other without Carrie, so I guess they just won't address it.
Communicate. Okay. Okay.
Carrie's, like, stuck awake at night, you know, messed up by the icy treatment. She goes to basically yell at Petrovsky, even though he's clearly like a sad boy, like hurt, trying not to cry. And she's like, I don't really appreciate what you did to my friends. I'm like, let this man live. But
oh my God.
For once, Carrie is able to ascertain that he's not okay.
Thank God.
And he's able to, like, you know, connect with her emotionally and say, you know, I'm worried because, like, what if my art isn't enough? It's been 6 years. The world is waiting with a breath that is bated. And Carrie kind of affirms him, you know, being like, it's going to be okay and all that kind of stuff. And she's like, I'm here to listen. And he, like, starts to tell her about all his anxieties and insecurities about his art. And then we end on the line where she's like, it was a cold, hard fact. Sometimes there's just not enough time in the night for both worlds.
Yeah, okay.
Sure. Except he laid his boundary down pretty clearly, and then you just violated it. So how are you supposed to make way for both worlds when he did that?
I don't want to investigate anymore because I feel bad when this show makes me side with a man.
Boo!
Boo!
I agree. Hate that.
I hate this feeling.
And that's the episode. We end all our podcasts as we end all our podcasts, which is with our high and our low, our rose and our thorn. Emily, what was your low of this episode? What was your diarrhea?
I think my diarrhea is the wig. just seeing it.
Yeah, it is its existence.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that my low is the dog period. You know,
yeah,
rough. I don't want to think about that.
Yeah.
Life is hard enough. What was your high of the episode? What was your release the Kraken?
I do like that we see kind of like moody Petrovsky here. I don't even want to say that, but just like another side of him a little bit. Like we're kind of moving past the like him doting on Carrie, massaging her feet. She's spending 40, and then we actually get to see him kind of do his own thing for a bit, which is nice. And I just like him having a life outside of doting on Carrie in this episode.
Yeah, like their relationship gets a bit more real.
Yeah.
I really like deleting Mr. Big. Big fuck you.
Voicemails.
To this sad man. And because of our podcast's newfound love for him, controversial newfound love for him, I look forward to him coming on screen, a thing no woman has ever said.
Because you know that somewhere in the distance, I'm giggling.
Yeah, exactly. I feel your joy radiate through the screen, and I did in that moment.
I get to just still enjoy him being a clown.
I'll be curious if the clown phase ever fades because of what we know.
Because of how I started seeing him that way.
I wonder if his emotional unattachment will like feed into
I'll
the
never
clown.
Like take it seriously.
Do you know what I mean? Like, because it could be read that way. I'm going to choose to read it that way. And I encourage everyone listening to this podcast to feel the same way. It's a highly rated, successful podcast. You know how I know it's highly rated and successful? When you like, follow, subscribe, give us 5 stars, give us high fives, contact us on social, contact us in the mail, contact us via bird, anything. This is a medical podcast, but we do not stand by any of our medical theories that we put forward because we have no certification. So we'll see you next week. Bye.